Hello, Seventh-day Ascendist children, to the Indigo children. Welcome to the unofficial Tool podcast Disgustipated. It goes elbow deep, overthinking, and analyzing Tool songs. Please keep in mind that this podcast is unofficial, that these are my opinions and will involve some speculation, with a large hooker with a penis-sized serving of facts. As a matter of facts, today's episode is going to be all about hooker with a penis. Most of all because I look forward to seeing Hooker with a Penis live at the show tomorrow. My show is tomorrow. But also because I got this awesome Hooker with a Penis Hooker with a Penis themed box from Scott Braxa and Sugar That Rocks, with the OGT founding father on there. The print is really cool. You can't see it as well on camera as you can in person, but it's kind of metallic. It's got like a photo print. Scott Braxa, check him out on Instagram, and check out Sugar That Rocks, their page. They created that together. They did a whole Hooker with a Penis themed box. It was really awesome. But Maynard was the founding father. Maynard and Adam were the founding fathers of Tool, so this is very fitting. He's not only the founding father of Tool, but the founding father of my creativity, the founding father of creativity in a lot of people who were inspired by Tool. They also, much like the United States, there's a parallel there with independent thinking, and there's even democracy in Tool with the writing, and they split everything 4 ways. And last but not least, one fat-ass dirty dollar and capitalism. Hooker with a penis. As I said before, the theme is Hooker with a Penis for a couple of reasons, notwithstanding that. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know that the Tool show is tomorrow, my Tool show in Louisville. And so this episode is going to be shot on one camera just to simplify the editing. I know that some of you, Jambi, you requested that I keep the 2-camera format, and I'll be returning to that. But for this month, it'll be 1 camera just to simplify the editing, because I'll get back on probably the 5th, and then I got to edit it on the 6th, and it'll hopefully be out on the 7th. So rather than cram all the things I wrote down in my notepad, I write down random things that occur to me to talk about, and then I organize my thoughts later and put it all together into kind of a story, or a through line. I organize my thoughts. But instead of cramming all that and what will follow at the Tool show into one episode, I thought it might be better to split these up. So for this week and the following weeks, I'm going to temporarily change what it means to be a Seventh-day Ascendist. For more information on our Tool subculture, emphasis on cult, go check out episode 1. You'll find out everything you need to know about Seventh-day Ascendist. But here's the plan. So for the next couple weeks, Seventh-day Ascendist means 7th day of the week. That's right, you heard me right. Saturday. And if you don't think it's Saturday, go look at your calendar, you tool. Sunday begins the week on every Gregorian calendar. Stay with me. 7th-day Ascendist will be the 7th day of every week for the next couple weeks, just for the temporary foreseeable future, because I want to divide this episode up so it's not so much editing, and because who knows what will follow. I want to do Tool trivia with my road dogs and some people in line. And like I said, the reasons being that it's a bit too much to cover all in one episode. All the things I wrote down. Opiate²? Come on. And the stress of it, and Tool trivia, and the segments like Tom with the Weather, and the Disgustipated segment, and the Tool Collection segment. And because who knows what'll happen tomorrow. Maybe Maynard rides me like a bull through the entire performance of Push It while I wave. I'd like to thank my brother and Amish Maynard and Rachel for driving me here, and to my wife for taking care of my little ones. I miss you guys. Love you so much. And Tool, I couldn't do this without you. And Jambi, hi friend. Keep an eye on Tempest for me. I'd like to request that Tool Countdown eulogize me in the event that Maynard just chokes me out, because I don't know if I can make it through this whole song. I don't know why I decided to get on stage during Invincible. Guess I thought I was invincible, but I'm getting lightheaded now. Love you guys. Oh, and before I pass out, I'd like to thank Tom with the weather. I'd like to thank you for being the asshole of the show. You're like the Eric Cartman to my South Park. And on that note, here's Tom with the weather. Tom. Thanks, Jeff, but you can point that fucking finger up your ass. If I'm the man, then you're the man, and he's the man as well. So we should celebrate by being insufferable Tool fans together. Hi, I'm Tom. Has Maynard called you an insufferable? If so, these shirts are for you. Has Jimmy thrown you to the ground with a fancy jiu-jitsu move while christening your back with his tool and showing the entire world what a tool you are? Then have I got the shirt for you. Not this one, but those ones. The new Insufferable and Disgustipated podcast t-shirts are replacing the old design, the OGT Maynard design, so if you want one of these, get them while they're still there. On the 7th of April, I'll be pulling them for good. OGT no more. If you want to be an OGT Disgustipated podcast fan, get your shirt now. And if you're an insufferable, and I know that you are, this shirt is for you. For more information, pick up your phone right now. Right now! Right now! Because time's running out. And dial 666-728-26. Oh! Or just check the link in the description or the bio or the whatever the fuck, wherever you want to go to spend your fat ass dirty dollar. It'll be there, waiting. Shut up and buy. Back to you, Jeff. Thanks, Tom. I'll have to pick up one of those to wear in a future episode. Driving into Louisville with my brother and the face behind Amish Maynard. Our cult leader. And in a sense, the founding father, OGT, of my little group of friends, besides my father showing it to me when I was a child. I mean, I heard, like, Anima was the first thing I remember hearing. I don't know if I've told this story, but it sounded like returning home when I finally got Anima and I listened to it, and it sounded so familiar. I mean, not to even to quote Third Eye, but that song in itself was a synchronicity. I talk about synchronicity later more, but so glad to see you. I've missed you so much. You know, that, anyway, that's what it was like listening to Anima for the first time as an adolescent. I had already heard it as a kid, and it just seemed so familiar. But the face behind Amish Maynard, my drummer, he showed it to me. He showed me Tool at a very formative age when I was starting to learn how to play music and play guitar, and I was playing in bands, and like, you know, the timing of when music hits you has a big effect on how much you love something, you know. And I love Tool, and I think it's amazing and great, but I also recognize that, to quote Eddie Vedder from, there's a Pearl Jam song, I can't think of the quote, but he says, like, everything good comes from youth. I think it's, not for you, dun, 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 dun. Pearl Jam, Vitalogy, that album is amazing. But, you know, the timing of when you hear things has a lot to do with what emotions or whatever brain chemicals you have. It ties all these things, and you're young and you're, you know, full of whatever emotions, and all those things are tied to that music as well. That's where nostalgia comes from. But I would dare say that has a lot to do with why people might not attach directly right away to, like, Fear Inoculum, which I think is amazing. I think I reserved a judgment. I wanted to listen to it a bunch before I finally, of course, I loved Fear Inoculum, like, right away, but, you know, and Descending, like, there's amazing parts in every one of the songs, but I might not have initially gotten it right away. I think you have to sit with something for a while before you make a judgment. But I'm getting sidetracked from what I wrote down in my notes here. I'm just, I'm trying to be more spontaneous and sporadic. Last episode, I kind of scripted a lot of it. I wrote a lot of it out, and this time I'm trying to just go with ideas and talk and maintain, you know, flow. And actually, the one camera format helps with that, because if I have two cameras, the one camera keeps dying, and I have to set a timer for every 10 minutes. It's a whole bullshit thing. But anyway, hopefully I get a new camera soon, so I won't have to worry about that. And Jambi, I will keep the two camera format, and I really like it too, not just for you, but because you told me. I agree. It's awesome. You know, I already thought it was pretty cool. I like having that one over there to look at. You know, the sound quality might be better though with just one mic, or with the mic with just one camera, the mic will stay, centered in one. I'll stay centered. Really, it's me. It's my wiggly ass. So yeah, I'll probably do Tool trivia with the guys in the car, at least with my brother. I know he mentioned wanting to do it at some point, but I'll probably do Tool trivia and maybe vlog a little bit. Maybe if I can get some video of the merch lines or people in line. I've got my 360 camera. Hopefully I can get a little bit of all that stuff. It'll be really cool if I can do it. But that'll be next episode. So on to this episode. Oh, and we can't forget Opiate². That video drops on the 18th. If this comes out on the 7th of March, 7 would be 14. So no, Opiate video, the Opiate² video won't be out by the next episode, but it'll be out by the one after that. So that's, again, another reason why it's like, it'll be better to do it 7th day of Ascendus, being 7th day of every week for just the next foreseeable future. Opiate², the recording was amazing. It sounds so fresh and like the tone is ripping through the speakers, like the guitars are, everything is more in your face, sound engineering wise, not just production wise. Things have gotten more complex and more like refined and everything. I think Sylvia Massey did an amazing job on the first EP, but his vocals are more clean, clear. He sings beautifully. You can tell he could do the rage thing if he wanted to, but he's like holding back. He's changed. His opinions have changed, not just his voice, but voices change over time too. Chris Cornell from Audioslave to Soundgarden, his range was just unbelievable. And then he comes in with Audioslave, and to me, I could hear just a little bit of squeezing on his throat, like something wasn't quite there anymore. Not that I love Audioslave, and Tom Morello and Rage Against the Machine, all that stuff. But anyway, I can tell voices degrade over time, especially when you're doing what he does. Chris Cornell did a lot of vocal fry. Think of what the guy in AC/DC does, like, that's what it's a version of that. Chris Cornell kind of had that sort of falsetto vocal fry thing going on in some instances, but I'd imagine that scars your vocal cords, So Maynard is avoiding that, but also his opinions change, over time. I think something has changed. That's what's great about Tool, is that they play from their heart, they play from where they're at. Now, as artists, they don't just keep rehashing the same old thing. People say it wasn't like, they're mad because it wasn't the old album. It wasn't like Anima, or I know people that are like, Tool, they lost it a long time ago, and I haven't been listening to Tool. And I asked them, like, okay, so what album did they lose it on, in your opinion? I just got to know. I'm curious. And he said Lateralis, and that's when I'm like, fucking, this guy's an idiot, But it's all personal preference, I get that too, and he just wants to hear angry music. But you know what? Go listen to angry music. There's lots of that, and it's just one emotion straight through. You can go listen to angry music anytime. I follow Tool because I respect the artistry and the integrity of the artist, and like Radiohead, you follow them for what they do. They have integrity, and they're great artists, and they're going to change their sound, and you're along for the ride. It's not like 80s music where shit all of a sudden got like, it was all electronic drums and just shitty, music. All of a sudden, like, artists were just changing the way they did things, and the sound changed just to follow what everybody else was doing. It's not like that. Tool changes because they're evolving. So all that to say, I loved the new Opiate². I thought it was amazing. The middle section gave me chills. Right before that is the line where he says, "Shine your light," and then it all, it changes. The chords change, and it shifts into that spot, and then it drops. The dynamics drop down, and it gets real quiet. And Danny's drums, it sounds like I picture like a what is the word I'm thinking of? Like an old shaman, rattling bones on a necklace. Like, I picture some kind of ceremony is what I picture, like summoning something. I can't wait for the video. Dominic Hailstone did the visuals for it. He worked on like Alien Covenant and some short films and other things. I really loved Alien Covenant, and I'm excited to see what he does with this. And he's been doing all the amazing visuals for the tour. I was already talking about that in the last episode of how amazing the stage setup is, and he's the mastermind behind a lot of that. So we know this is going to be amazing. And they've been slipping that design on the back of the t-shirt this whole time it was opiate and we had no idea. Maybe some people at the clinics, maybe some people from the clinics knew, but I had no idea. I think most people were clueless that they were buying an Opiate² shirt. And this video is another jump because Adam Jones normally directs the videos. I think he directed all of them, but sober. Maybe I'm wrong, though. He might not have had much directorial control over Hush. I don't know. But, anyway, Adam Jones normally directs these videos. Dominic Hailstone is the director on this. And the song has, the obvious theme of religion is the opiate of the masses. But then that breakdown in the middle makes me feel like over time he's seen some sort of a change in opinions. And it might not be, he's no longer, it's not like you change your opinion to become pro-dogma when you're anti-dogma, but I think people can experience spirituality throughout their life. They can grow, and that's what all the previous a lot of the previous albums have themes of spiritual growth. So I feel like they rounded back to Opiate and inserted some of the new Tool with all their virtuosity and amazing skill that they have now, but put it in that rough, aggressive tune, I think it's amazing. I think it's still got all the aggression and like ripping guitars and drums. They all sound amazing. It sounds so good. I listen to my car and like the placement of the drums in the stereo field, it's like especially in that middle section, man, it's so cool. It's so good. I love the rattling of bones or drums or whatever he's doing. It sounds like clicking sticks. It's so cool. And as I said, you don't have to, if you change your opinion on spirituality and the existence of a thing, we'll just say, that doesn't mean you completely negate the anger and whatnot, but like you could still have anger about religion and how they kind of fool people, just to dial in on TV, some of these worship television shows, and you'll see like I don't even know the guy's name, but he has like a huge mansion. Obviously he's making a shit ton of money off people. But you can see the progression of Tool in their album art too, and art is a big thing for me. A lot of it is interpretation, you get to look at it and see what you want to see. Well, the Opiate cover is kind of self-explanatory, the evil-looking priest. Then you have Undertow, which is just a rib cage, but it's like a red rib cage. It's like pure anger, all from the heart. It's like it's just all from the heart. It's rage. And Anima is like a smoking box, beginning to see the light. The light is in the middle of the box, and it's starting to change. Things are starting to... It's still burning white hot, but it's beginning to change. Things are changing, evaporating, And then Lateralis, the art is dissecting the complexity of life and peeling back the layers, analyzing every layer of the complexity of life and how unlikely something so complex is to be random. Just look at Lateralis and how planned how completely mathematical it is. Some of it was random. It happened by chance, and then they took that to the nth degree. It's obviously a temple. It's obviously built, just like if you were to see the pyramids and you had no idea that Egyptians existed, you'd see the pyramids and like, that doesn't just happen by random. It's not the wind blowing that caused that. And then 10,000 Days, the goggles, it's like, not these goggles, but if you look through those lenses and it's like seeing through another set of eyes, it's like trying to see through somebody else's eyes, all the eyes of the net of being, And then Fear Inoculum, I feel like is a wound up, it's curled up, it's like they're ironing it out, maybe, with all the clashing numbers and the music slamming up against each other, the guitar and the bass, and then they're all locked in together. It's like making your bed. I feel like it's just, it's like calming the fear or uncoiling the snake. Plus the whole theme of 7, like I said with Lateralis, this is to the nth degree where it's like everything is so constructed and meticulous and they very thoroughly constructed a massive temple of epic proportions. So Opiate², I watched that Tool archive video, and it talks about, I'll link that below, but the Tool archive video that came out, I think it was the same day that Opiate² was released, or Yeah, I think it was the same day. But so that video talks about how heavily the number 7 ties in to a lot of Tool's work and their numerology stuff. The Opiate 21st anniversary reissue, 7 times 3 is 21. I don't know. There's so much numerology stuff in Tool. I couldn't quote you everything that he said, but after hearing a whole video of 7s and stuff like that, then I looked down and it had 777 likes. And Opiate was released on March 10th, which is my birthday. I'll be 36 this year, and Opiate's turning 30. So that's a little bit of synchronicity there, especially because 7th Day Ascendist, I know that I chose that because of 7 and Tool, but it was 777 on the likes. I just thought that was kind of strange. Synchronicity has always kind of followed me around, or maybe it's something that our minds do. Mine specifically does it quite a bit, and I have to sort through I have to sort through it all. I have an overactive creative brain that is, probably to my detriment sometimes. It's creating falsities and stories, calling voices. You have to kind of calm that down. You have to sort through what's real and what's imagined. But I think that's a creative trait, is to just connect patterns, that you see. It's just like I've said before in another episode, I had a stroke. So I had a stroke. My right side was paralyzed. So it happened on my left side of my brain. Left side is logical. Right side is creative. I have like an overactive creative side. But I didn't want to get into all that. Like I said, synchronicity follows me around though. Well, what's the difference between synchronicity and coincidence? Synchronicity is something that you apply personal meaning to. You see a meaning in it. Coincidence is just a coincidence. It's just, I see those two, but I don't keep a log of them in my head. I don't add them up. But synchronicity, where it's something that has meaning, it's like you stop and you're like, wow, that's weird. Here's one of them. Me and my brother, I talked about this maybe in the last episode, but we were having a conversation about God and the existence of God, and he asked, why does God have to care about us? Why isn't it like a chicken that just lays an egg and just walks off? It's like, oh, well, it took me back. I was like, oh, wow, that's a good question. And then the answer to that for me eventually was, well, because complex things don't generally come from uncomplex things. Consciousness doesn't come from a chicken, but I don't know. I mean, that's, I guess, the evolution argument. Anyway, so that day we talked about simulation theory as well. And so I'm running through all these things in my head and like God and what is benevolence. And so I'm Googling all this stuff and I'm looking it up. No, I hadn't Googled it yet. So I had all this stuff in my mind, and then I lay down and I start to Google it. And when I go to Google is a video game. I'm going to Google simulation theory, and Google is a video game. I thought I flipped my lid. I thought I was on a video game. You ever seen that movie with Edward Furlong?
Brain Scan.
I can't recall the name of it, but that book I've talked about, Demons Don't Dream, that's basically the theme, is like, basically he creates a video game and then goes to inside it somehow. I don't remember how that happens, but he winds up in the video game. The earliest synchronicity that I can remember is when I was a kid. I was playing on the couch. I was pretending to be a Ninja Turtle. And I remember having the thought, like, why? I remember thinking, I always play like things that I've seen. Why don't I play like something I've never seen? And so I'm pretending I'm a Ninja Turtle that works at the fair or something, and I'm pulling like a lever. And then on the TV, a commercial for Ninja Turtles that work at the circus. It's like Circus Ninja Turtles commercial comes on. Never seen it before. And I remember thinking, like I said, that I had the thought that I should play like something I've never seen before. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong because it was that long ago, and maybe the commercial had subconsciously planted it in my brain. But I remember seeing the TV playing what I was doing in my brain and thinking, like, somebody is listening to me. Like, did they just hack my brain? And of course I didn't know the term hacked. I was a little kid, but I'm thinking, like, like, I just felt like I was being watched. Or another little synchronicity, I won't even talk about all the stuff that I talked about with Maynard before. In the previous episode, Maynard had a rabbit poster behind him, a shirt that said Jeff, and he's talking about Louisville in an interview. after my podcast came out. So if that wasn't intentional, it's a hell of a bunch of coincidences all at once. Synchronicity, I applied meaning to it anyway. So if it wasn't intentional, it just happens, you know? Another one, the Colorado Springs poster. If you haven't seen it, it's basically two trees interwoven into what looks like an infinity sign with 2 feet of a dead person. I'm assuming he's dead. I'm painting that part in there, projecting it, because there's an axe, a bloody axe. Anyway, my father spent his last days in Colorado Springs, which, like I said, I've talked about this on the podcast, and I'm not saying anything. I'm saying, if nothing else, it's a hell of a fucking coincidence or synchronicity. Colorado Springs poster, my father's ashes were planted with the seedling of a tree, so he took on another life in a tree. And again, that's a reference to a book too, like Speaker for the Dead. In that book, they study aliens that take on another life. Part of their reproductive process is to slaughter each other, and then a tree grows from that. Like, they put the tree in the middle of the slaughtered pig, but it's an honor thing. It's like horrific, but beautiful and honor. It's really strange. It's a good book, Speaker for the Dead. But that's a hell of a synchronicity. The best way I can describe synchronicity or deja vu, it feels like a wink from the universe. You know, it feels like you're on track to something. It feels like, hey, I see you, buddy. Hey, I created this little simulation for you to run through. Or maybe what it is a fractal universe in which, you know, there's an infinite amount of yous making, every time you make a choice, it splinters off in another direction. And maybe deja vu or synchronicity is like when it lines back up, like a whole lot of the different yous in parallel fractal universes have been back at that point. They all crossed that path again. Maybe it's that. But like I said, the difference between synchronicity and coincidence is applying meaning. And maybe we do that as a human. We project meaning onto things. Just like with God, maybe it's just a creative thing that just creates. And we apply the meaning, you know, that there has to be more. Again, that circles back to Alien, the Prometheus. It was Alien Covenant when David is having the discussion with his creator. And you know, the human is hesitant to believe that somebody just created him, but David is like, so wait, I'm talking to my creator, but you're looking for yours? And he's like, yes, I refuse to believe, you know, that we were just created from nothing. But David was just created, you know, to serve. Like, come pour me some tea, David. Anyway, that circles back to the alien thing, but I'm getting sidetracked again. The human tendency to apply meaning to things. And the Lateralis album art, when you get to the final page, there's the human brain. And if you look closely, it spells God in the lumps of the brain. Now, is that saying, because Tool are the masters of creating ambiguous art, which art is the best when you can try to apply your own meaning and think it causes thought. That's what art is. But the word God being in the brain, does that say that we thought up God, we made it up, or that God created and gave us a brain to think for ourselves? And again, the word God is loaded, so it just could be a creative force. Did the creative force create us? Is that just a creative force? Did we make up and apply? We apply all these human aspects to it. But maybe we apply meaning to all these overlapping coincidences, and it's just a symptom of maybe a fractal universe in which many things happen. And just a single point of time is actually what exists. It's like a point in space. But I do know another synchronicity was that when I reached out and asked it, I was like, I saw the Colorado Springs poster and I'm like, all right, I got to have that. I love the poster, but also all the meaning tied to it. And I reached out in all my 4 tool groups that I talked about this last episode, but some people helped me get it. And the next day I'm looking at the notifications and it was just an outpouring of love from all these people. And that made me a little bit emotional, or a lot, really. It just warmed my heart. And then I see another notification that says to look at my memories. So I just happen to click on my memories. I don't always do that. A lot of times I don't fuck with Facebook, but so I click on that and it shows me a bunch of memories from previous tool shows. Apparently they all happen around the same January or when I post about them, or, you know, I don't even have that good of a memory, so I couldn't tell you, but There was a Tool show from January that I just happened to sit in a random seat by myself next to somebody that I grew up with. Then there was the original post of Amish Maynard when I swapped all the faces. That was in the memories in January. I think it was the exact same day that I was looking at it. It was like after I requested that people help me find the Colorado Springs poster, then I see the Amish Maynard thing. Then right below that was a picture memory of my dad sitting on the couch watching Little Mermaid with my daughter and my cousin Steve. So that made me emotional because I often, wish that they got to know my dad better. I don't know that they'll have many memories of him at all, but especially Dax, he won't really have any memory of him, I don't think. Anyway, so my dad and my daughter and Steve are sitting there watching Little Mermaid, and Steve was also in the face swap picture with my dad and me and Amish Maynard. So all these things happen years apart, and yet they're right there in my memories. And then Steve, this will tie into my Tool collection segment, but Steve bought me this vinyl, this Tool Lateralis Alex Grey signed vinyl. Check it out. Steve actually took care of my dad in his last remaining days. He was there with him. My dad stayed in Colorado Springs with Steve. So Steve actually bought 3 of those and sent one for my dad, one for my brother, and one for me. And so after my dad died, my brother kept the 2. So my brother now has 2 of them. And then I gave my dad Opiate 21st anniversary reissue, but when he died, I gave that to my brother. And I also gave him a Tool poster, the one from his birthday when we all went to that show. I gave it to him because it was also another synchronicity. It was the art on it was done by Justin Chancellor, and it was on Justin's birthday. So it was just like a sign that, I should give that to my brother. Circling back to my theory of Opiate, maybe over time this thing reveals itself to you more. If you keep seeing piles of unlikely events just piling up, they just keep happening. It's like, this must be from something. And a lot of them, like I said, it's synchronicity. It's things that only really have meaning to you personally. It's like you can't prove it, and you can't tell somebody and they understand the full depth of what you're feeling. It's this thing that's only for you. And I feel like if there were a creator and it were to reveal itself, it wouldn't show everybody. It would just be for you. But I'm not trying to get too deep into all that. I'm absolutely not religious. I do believe in something. I don't know what it is. And that's the thing. I like thinking about it. I like thinking about it from 1,000 different angles because we, as humans, apply human things to it. We apply greed and... Anyway, I'm getting off on that. That's enough waxing poetic and philosophy. Let's talk about vinyl. Not this vinyl, but let's talk about vinyl. Let's talk about the Fear Inoculum vinyl. Holy shit. Fear Inoculum deluxe version box set vinyl. It looks so cool. So cool. I was like, I immediately want it. I couldn't really justify buying it because I have a little record player. It's like a suitcase record player. I would listen to, for my son, I'd take him down to nap and I'd let him put the record player on and put the needle on and stuff. It's like, can you imagine how cool it is as a kid to like put a disc on a giant disc on a tray that spins and like hear, I didn't grow up with a record player. I grew up with like tapes. Anyway, I don't have a record player that can support that would, this is audiophile level vinyl. Like from the ground up, Fear Inoculum was made analog. Like they recorded analog to tape and then eventually transferred it to digital for the CD version and for streaming. The vinyl version stayed in the real world the whole time, never went to ones and zeros in a computer. At least I don't think so. The mastering process, who knows? I don't think so because mastering, they master for vinyl. It's analog too, I think. But as far as I know from what Joe Barresi said, it's analog from the ground up. It's made for vinyl. So the vinyl release is 100% real world, never left into the digital world, and I think that holds a power. Could I fully appreciate that on a suitcase vinyl record player? I don't think so. What was really upsetting was the people finally given what they've been asking for, Tool vinyl. Tool vinyl, Tool vinyl. When's all the Tool vinyl coming out? And then they wanted to bitch about the price that Tool asked for a signed version of a pre-released first pressing of Fear Inoculum. That's just, insufferable. Insufferable t-shirts. Tool creates music that has the highest of value. If you could only listen to it by paying $800 and you were the only one that had this copy, you would do it. NFTs are a huge thing. It doesn't make any sense to me, but NFTs, people see it as some sort of investment, and that's really what this all comes down to, is money and investment. And like the flippers, if they could buy it and sell it for more, they will, and Tool increases that price so that maybe flippers hesitate, but real collectors that want to buy it can still buy it. If I had the money, I would buy it. $800, hell yeah, I'd do it. Like I said, I don't even have a good record player. I'd have to invest thousands in like a good setup to listen to it. If you want to think about things like NFTs and investments, then put that motherfucker in a shadow box, and it's going to be worth $10,000 at some point in the future. The first pressing, signed, it's definitely going to go up in value. I just couldn't believe that people had the audacity to bitch about it, especially considering that poster prices, that flippers buy up all the posters. I saw posters for $2,500. Adi Granov poster, or maybe it was the Stanislav Zulkowski. But anyway, that print was up for $2,500. Some total ass clown probably bought up 10 of them. It was a short run. Music is the most valuable part of Tool, and yet people will pay the standard price for an unsigned poster on the interwebs. eBay sells them for $300. So Tool is asking $800 for the signed first release, first pressing of vinyl of Fear Inoculum, this giant art set box with etchings on the vinyl, for $800, and people are bitching about it. Like, they would buy a poster for $800 signed. Like, it just makes no fucking sense. And the music is the most valuable part of it all. Spotify totally devalues music, paying pennies, not even pennies. They pay like a fourth of a penny, less than that. I don't even know how much it is, but they pay maybe 10% of a penny for every stream. And then I was in a Facebook group and I was talking about how Spotify sucks, and they were saying, over a lifetime of playing something for your whole lifetime, if you listen to an album your whole lifetime on Spotify, you've paid for the album. But when you buy a CD, CDs get scratched, CDs get lost, etc. And then you rebuy it. If you love it that much, you rebuy it. And not only that, but CDs, you listen to them in order. And I know that's an old school thinking, but in my head, Onema has an order to it, not like on shuffle, not on random, Of course, I like to listen to things on random sometimes too, but Spotify is still better than piracy, but Spotify was literally created by a pirate. I think he owned the company BitTorrent, but he was literally the CEO of like a piracy platform, and then he talked all the record companies that were, a sinking ship, talked them into creating this platform of convenience for people. Then they can sell ads, and basically they got on board because they were a fucking dead horse, But it was created by a pirate, and they pay shit to artists, Go buy albums, man. Buy physical albums. I understand that there's a lot of convenience, every song at your fucking fingertips with Spotify, but it fucking sucks, man. I hate Spotify. I don't pay for it. I would never. I don't pay for it. I do like to listen, but then they try to throw ads in there, or they won't let you listen to the song you want to listen to. My music's on there. Echoes of Iris is there somewhere, but that's just because I want people to be able to find my music. It's basically fucking free advertising if anybody ever happens to hear it or happens to want to hear it, and it's on Spotify. It's not free. I pay for it. I pay for it to be on there. But what I'm saying is it's free to listen to, because I get nothing. I barely get I don't get anything from it that I would ever count on. It's just there because I need to create music and I want people to hear my music, so I put it on that platform. But Spotify sucks. And I think physical objects have a power and a magic to them. I think things in the real world have a weight to them, like gravity. The larger the object is, the more gravity it has. Mass and gravity go hand in hand. What I'm saying is physical albums have not just excitement. You get to look at it, feel it, and it's in the real world, but it has a magic to it. It's like think of a totem, what do you think a totem is? It gives it more power in your brain anyway. When the new Deftones album Ohms came out, there was like a shipping delay because of COVID and all that. So it hit streaming and I listened to it. I think I might have stayed up at midnight, or maybe that was just for Genesis. But anyway, I listened to it, but it didn't feel quite real. I love the album. All of it was great, but it didn't feel the same because I didn't have it. It was the first time I bought a new album that I was looking forward to immensely. Like Deftones is my second favorite band. If not, Tool and Deftones are like tied. It's hard to describe. They're different things. So just like you can't compare the Opiate² with the old one, I think that Tool and Deftones are two different animals. It's art. Don't compare. Obviously, Tool is like another level of complexity. So the Deftones album, Ohms, I was looking forward to it a lot. It had a fanzine. Once the physical fanzine got here and everything felt like, this is so cool, and I had the vinyl, the clear vinyl. It's just super cool. But I needed that to totally connect with it. I think maybe that's what's missing with the new generation of people that just listen on Spotify to things. There's a disconnect. It's not real. It's just disposable almost because everything is the same. When I buy a Tool album, it has a weight to it, not just physical weight, but I put stock into it. I believe in it. That's why I fucking bought it. I don't buy a lot of stuff. I always buy, like Queens of the Stone Age, I bought that. New Tame Impala, I bought that. New Radiohead, I always buy. There's artists that I follow that I always buy. And if I hear something on YouTube that I like a lot, I go buy it. I want the album. But like I said, the Fear Inoculum vinyl, I would love to own it. I almost bought it on Amazon, but I don't have a fancy record player, and it would cost too many fat-ass dirty dollars to upgrade all my shit. It costs $1,000 to get a good record player. But it's too many fat-ass dirty dollars. And now, on to the Hooker with a Penis theme. This is a very straightforward song. It's the shortest song on Anima, and it's pretty straightforward relative to the rest of Tool's library. It's like, there's no real questioning what this is about. It's a story of meeting a guy that claims he's OGT on the first EP, and he thinks they've sold out because they signed with a major record label from Undertow, or maybe it's Anima. But I wonder if this is a real story or if this is an allegory, like something maybe it's a thought experiment, sort of, like justifying in his own head. Because the term sellout, I remember in the 90s, it was like big time, like Nirvana didn't want to sell out, but like Soundgarden had to put out a record on an independent label before they could finally do, this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to do something on independent record labels. So there's this whole aversion to selling out. You can't be a real artist on a major record label bullshit. So he's railing against that thought, but it might have also been a true story. So it's a pretty straightforward story, but here's 3 perspectives that you could think about the song from. 1, we're all participating in capitalism. Maynard is a hooker because he sold his soul to make a record. The market or buyer encourages it, so he makes more records. It's supply and demand. We're all participating in the economy. That's how it works. We all spend our money where we prioritize things and we value them. And this guy's wearing a band t-shirt. He's wearing a dope Beastie tee, walking around sipping Coke, branded stuff, and wearing tattoos, probably of stupid Disney characters, or if they're like my dad and my brother, Tool tattoos all over him. He's basically a walking commercial. Not that I don't have tattoos, but my dad and my brother had Tool tattoos. That's fucking awesome. So this is a story about a guy walking around. It's basically an advertisement. He's a living and breathing advertisement for something. And Maynard is basically telling him, if you don't want to participate in this hypocrisy, you basically have to throw down your fucking Coke and your pants or shut the fuck up. 2, you only know what he sold you. Like a hooker with a penis. It's a surprise dick. You thought you were buying a hooker, and now you're getting fucked. It's a hooker's dick. But he only sold you what's on the surface. You don't know his integrity. You don't know what runs underneath the intentions of an artist. And you thought you could critique him? Well, he gave you a good 6 inches of Maynard and told you to fuck off because he's going to do what he's going to do. 3, whether or not Tool sold out is irrelevant because they did it in the smartest, most business-wise way that you possibly could. They maintained creative control, and they took less money to maintain creative control. They sold their souls to make a record, but they undersold their souls so that they could maintain the control of it and have integrity. If you don't like the new shit, well, I'm sorry, buddy. It wasn't made for you. It was made for the artist from his true sense of self and from where they are now. That's integrity. I personally know a couple of the OGT type thinkers where they might not immediately like something. Of course, this is like not giving it enough of fucking time to set into their brain. They just fucking start saying things because they can't shut the fuck up and listen for a little while. But here's what a lot of people don't realize, is that timing has a lot to do with your perception of music. You know, if you listen to something as an adolescent, it impacts you more, you know, or the timing of your life has something to do with it too. When Fear Inoculum came out, my dad was dying. It had a huge impact on me from there. Did I immediately latch onto it? You know, no, but I was listening to it constantly, and it helped me to transition through that. But I had to sit with the music and dissect it and really chew on it. You can't judge things right away by what it makes you feel. Of course, if I'd heard it when I was a kid, I might have immediately loved it. You know, who knows? I respect Tool, and when they release music, I listen to it on repeat. I listen to it and I sit with it, and like I said, I respect them enough to believe that they are doing this from their truest self. And if I don't get it, I don't jump to some conclusion. I don't say they fucking sold out, or if I don't get it right away, I sit with it with the hopes that at one point, if I listen enough, I'll understand it, or something will change in my life that it clicks. And a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people just critique things right away instead. Some quotes on capitalism to wrap up the hooker with a penis theme. Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society that you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow that's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilizations have not come from governments, bureaucrats. Einstein didn't construct his theory of relativity under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. That's a quote from Milton Friedman. I think I added a couple words because these glasses are starting to fog up. This is the second quote. A people who are possessed of the spirit of commerce, who see and who will pursue their advantages, may achieve almost anything. A quote from George Washington. Now on to this week's Disgustipated segment. Poster flippers. The flippers. I'm not talking about somebody who resells a poster at the relative market value because that's what somebody's willing to pay for it. I'm talking about these pieces of shit that buy up 10 of them and just turn around, and I've seen them posted as quick as like the show is happening and people are posting it on eBay. And then who knows if the price is being driven up by this person who has another account and they're driving the price bids up and making it look like it sold for more than it did. So that becomes the going price. You're being duped, people. I don't know. But, you know, posters were never even a thing for me until this poster back here. That was the first. I mean, it's not the first. There's another poster back there. But you know what? It's hung up with thumbtacks. This Tool poster, thumbtacks. The Justin Chancellor one that I gave my brother, I put it up on the wall with thumbtacks. I know that's dumb. And I had anxiety and I stuck them they were just put away for a long time. And then I'm like, why do I have all these poster tubes and like my walls are barren? Because I have anxiety about, I got to invest all this money in frames and shit. And I just started tacking up things that inspire me onto the wall because I don't fucking plan on reselling it. Like, I'm not investing money. It's not an investment for me. It's something that I love, that I value, and that inspires me. And I put it on my fucking wall with thumbtacks. And yeah, I'm talking about the poster flippers and greed. I'm not talking about somebody that might buy 2 posters or even 4, because I know that, like, I'm going to this Tool show tomorrow, and I've got, I might go to buy a poster, and my brother might go to another line if he was going to get a poster. And then we'd buy 2, one for ourselves and one for the other. And then I got somebody else that I know that's going to the Tool show. You know, you might buy 3 of them. And then knowing that I could turn around and sell them to another Tool fan, and in one of my Tool collective groups. It's not greed. I'm not marking it up, and even if you did mark it up some, that's not all that greedy either. If you're buying 3 or you're buying 2, but at some point it's greed, and you're depriving the person behind you of something that they're going to treasure for the rest of their lives. Yeah, I understand everybody needs to make a buck. I understand that money is important, and I might not shame somebody for stealing bread, and for all I know, this person is using it to buy food. But do we need rules to keep us in line from treating the person behind us poorly by depriving them of something? There are several factors that play into that, like there's a low number of prints, and that could be for several reasons, but one of them could be to drive up the value of the posters, and maybe to drive up the value of the artist. Like everybody wants this person's art, and they start looking at, they start seeking out this person's art, or they become a big fan of it, or maybe it drives up the value of the Tool brand. I do know that at some point on the Tool Army website, I noticed a ton of unsold shirts with the bug design. That Tool poster is the bug design, but apparently they used that same print on a bunch of the tour dates. So either people they might have made a lot. Let me see the number on there. That one has a number of 500. Tool has grown bigger, and at one of the shows, I think it was the Stanislav poster, was only 350 of them. I might be wrong about that. The poster in my living room, the Colorado Springs one, is 550, I think, or maybe 450. It's 550. There's a bit of a collector mentality, with like I have a whole collection of comic book cards and comic books. There's a collector mentality to it, and people putting things in like a folder, like a portfolio. I've seen that, and I'm not shaming that. I get it. I never got it before, but I'm starting to get it just from trying to figure out why people drive the value of these things up so high. And then the Tool groups also have like raffles and stuff, which that if you won a poster, like that would make your day. If you won, I know somebody won the Tool signed Fear Inoculum vinyl. That would, it costs $25 to enter, and then you get a vinyl, like vinyl valued at $800. That would just, so it makes somebody feel really good. The feeling of finally acquiring something that you've been, it gives you like this thing to strive for. In a world where everything's digital, material objects, like I said, they have more weight, and then you put more stock on them because they are limited. And maybe it takes the limited availability to drive up, to make people really go get the thing. I know I wouldn't even want a PlayStation 5 yet because there's not that many games, but because I can't get one, I would almost feel like I had to jump on it. If I saw one in person, I'd be like, I gotta buy this, because it's, they're not in stock or they're limited. It's a status thing, or I don't get it, but I do know that it works. It works to drive up people's impulse to buy it when they can. So yeah, ultimately I never understood the poster thing, but I'm not a normal people. I wasn't even going to buy one of the Adam Jones posters at the Tool signing event when I met him, but it actually looked really cool through the window. It looked super cool, and so I was like, oh man, that thing would look awesome behind my guitars, which it does. It does. So I understand that people are going to flip posters. I understand the flippers are going to flip, and the greedy are going to be greedy, and they're going to deny the person behind them from something that they really wanted. So do we really need rules to make us behave like good people? I'm Jeff. I'm out.